Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, IIBA certification chats and Q&A session presented by our excellent instructor for today, Dr. Susan Heidorn. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A portion after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. And without further ado, I will now hand it over to you, Dr. Heidorn.
Thank you so very much, Marie. Yeah, let's talk about certifications. Hopefully that's what you're all here for. We are going to talk about all things IIBA certs, that is. And this is something that we produce about every 2 months. So I'm very happy to talk to you, and hopefully you get excited about the next certification. So our next one, in case you have friends or family or anybody else who's excited about certifications, as we are, June 28th is our next one. Just a note, Educate 360 Watermark Learning offers classes both virtually and in person and on demand on your own pace. And if you take one of our certification classes, our IIBA certifications, we offer a 30% off bundle. So what does that mean? That means you get 30% off your application fee, 30% off your exam fee, and a 1-year membership free with IIBA. And if you're already a member, they just kind of extend that so you don't lose anything off of it, but you still get the membership. So it's a really great deal. Hopefully you take advantage of it. Also, IIBA, a few announcements for them. They have a new publication called Future Proof, Amplifying Agility with AI and Insightful Business Analysis. Business analysis is always growing in different directions, and now we are looking at AI and business analysis and what the business analysis role can play in AI. So check out that new publication. Also, I would say check out IIBA.org just generally. They have a great knowledge hub with lots and lots of information, lots of resources for business analysts. So it's always good if you're not a member, maybe sign up for one of our classes and then you'll get a free membership. So also, just a look at upcoming certifications, CBAP, CCBA, ECBA. You can note the dates there. And again, check out our website, watermarklearning.com, for more information on those. So without further ado, I'm just going to have you put it in the chat, if you will. I know we have a few attendees. What certifications are you looking for as far as IIBA? Because we have the CBAP, CCBA, ECBA, and then we have the Agile certification and the Data Analytics certification. So I'm just kind of curious as to which ones you're looking for. So if you can just throw it in the chat for me, that would be awesome. Then I kind of know how to focus a little bit more as to where you would like to go and know. So again, you should be able to get to your chat off your menu bar. Or maybe you're not sure which certification you want yet. ECBA. Thank you, Morgan. Any others particularly focused or just trying to figure out maybe which ones you want? All right. Well, I'll give you a lot of information to think about since you're not really sure. So we're going to start with the core certifications. These are the first ones that IIBA came out with and are all based on the body of knowledge that IIBA created. So the first one they came out with was actually their senior certification. So that's the CBAP that came out in 2006. And it's hard to think about. It's already almost 20 years old. These are for people who have experience being business analysts. They have practical experience, at least 7,500 hours. And you can have that, though, with over 10 years. So that way you can kind of take that experience and apply it to the CBAP. So it's mostly seasoned BAs. People have been around the block for a little while. And the knowledge areas, and I'll talk about the knowledge areas as we move forward, you do need a minimum of 904 of those knowledge areas. You do need some professional development hours, 35 hours in the last 4 years. So that means you have to take a class in business analysis, something that relates and aligns to their business analysis body of knowledge. And you do need a couple of references, code of conduct, and the application fee. And again, if you take one of our classes, you get 30% off of that. And the exam fee, the first number there you'll see is a member number. If you are a member of IIBA, you can get it for $350. Non-members pay $505, which is also another good reason to get your membership. And again, off of those, we offer 30% discount if you take one of our classes. CCBA then came around in 2011. And they said, you know what, not everybody has 7,500 years of experience or hours of experience. Not years, boy, we're really old. So 2 to 3 years of experience, maybe you were a developer and a business analyst, maybe you were a project manager and doing business analyst work. You know, you can be some of those hybrids, consultants doing some BA work. So this only takes 3,750 hours in the past 7. And again, it talks about the hours that you need in each knowledge area. You still need 2 references, and again, the pricing is below. ECBA is really the newer one to the block. And this is for people who are new to business analysis. Maybe they manage business analysts, but they've never been a business analyst. Maybe they're people transitioning to the role of business analyst. And so that's our newest one. It used to have actually professional development hours, and now they don't have any professional development hours. So you just have to pay the exam fee. They don't have an application fee either for ECBA, and it's only about an hour exam, so it's not too difficult. Now, people always ask me, Susan, do I have to start with the ECBA and then do CCBA and then do CBAP? You know, kind of as a graduate, I have to do one first or second, because I know some certifications are like that. You have to have the foundation first before you can go on to more of a practitioner level. In this case, that is not true. I would encourage you to go for the certification that you can apply to. So it depends on how many hours of business analyst experience. So you don't have to start with ECBA. You can just do CCBA or CBAP. I only have my CBAP. I don't have my CCBA, ECBA, mostly because by the time I got my CBAP, those other 2 weren't existing. So I think I got my CBAP in like 2007, 2008, pretty close to when they launched it. So the other 2 weren't in existence, but you don't have to have it graduated. You can just jump to whichever one that you have the most experience to qualify for. And then, and if you get your CCBA, it's not that you can't get your CBAP. It just depends on if you have enough hours for CBAP, go for that one. If you have only enough hours for CCBA, go for that one, etc. So just, you know, you have to kind of pick. So exams are very different for each one. The exam for the CBAP is case study based. And what does that mean? So you have a case study, which is, you know, 3 paragraphs or so. They say 1 to 1.5 pages, depends on how big the page is, obviously. So they have like 3 paragraphs, maybe 4 paragraphs of a situation, a case study. And then they have multiple choice questions. So each case study could have 3, 4 questions about it. And so then you'd read the case study, read the question, read all the answers, and then select the correct one. Because it's a lot of scrolling, a lot of paging, and a lot of reading, the number of questions have gone down since they've implemented that. So it's 120 questions. They give you 3.5 hours to do it. CCBA is scenario-based, situational. Usually 2 to 4 sentences saying, you're a business analyst, here's the situation, what would you do? Or what technique would you use? Or what would you do first? Or what would you do next? Or whatever. So it is situational based, trying to get you to know how to apply the learning and information and concepts that are in the body of knowledge. Now, CBAP, even though it's case study based, they will also throw in some scenario questions as well. ECBA is competency based, basically knowledge based. So multiple choice questions, they might describe a technique and they'll say, what technique am I, is this a description of, and then you'd have four options and then you would select the best option. Or when would you use this technique? I mean, it's very high level. It usually sticks with definitions, task, not the intricacies or application of business analysis. Still multiple choice, 50 questions, and you got an hour. So it makes it a little bit easier. And the nice thing, everything is multiple choice, so you don't have to, no fill in the blank or essay, thank goodness. So here is the IIBA's framework, and these are called the knowledge areas. So if you recall, just as I spoke before, we said, well, you have to have 900 hours in 4 of the knowledge areas or 400 in this knowledge, So the hours have to apply to the knowledge areas in the box. So these are the 6 knowledge areas. So the first one, of course, is business analysis, planning, and monitoring. It's where we plan and manage and monitor our business analysis effort. It might be formal, might be informal planning, depending on if you're doing agile or waterfall, but we still do need to do some planning. Elicitation and collaboration, that's where we elicit all the requirements we need. Business rules, any additional information we need, and then manage our stakeholder collaboration. Then the pink over there, or fuchsia, requirements lifecycle management. Once we get the requirements, we need to manage them. We might need to do a traceability matrix, or we might need to figure out if we can reuse these requirements. And so it's the care and feeding of requirements throughout. Now, that outer ring that I just spoke about is really kind of a support. These are the buckets of things a business analyst can do, not sequentially. They're not talking about sequential process. They're just talking about this is a framework, and these are the buckets of things and activities and tasks that a business analyst would do. So the outer ring is kind of those support tasks that we do all the time. The inner ring kind of has a little bit of a sequencing to it. In the essence, strategy analysis is often that pre-project work, looking for the business need. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What's the opportunity we're trying to take advantage of? What's the current state? What's the future state? How are we going to get to the future state? Recommending solutions. That's all in strategy analysis. Now, sometimes business analysts don't get invited to the party until after the project actually officially starts and the PM is on board, or you've been assigned to an agile team. But somebody has to do strategy analysis, because if you don't know what problem you're solving or what opportunity you need to take advantage of, you're kind of up a creek, because any requirement will do, but not necessarily meet the expectations of everyone. Requirements analysis and design, that's where you take all that raw data you elicited from stakeholders and put the requirements in good order. Maybe it's creating a user story, maybe it's creating more formal, defined requirements. So that's where that happens. And then solution evaluation, once the solution has been implemented or towards implementation, because you have to have a solution to evaluate. This is where you would say, did we get the value we thought we were going to get? What was that value? Was it increased productivity, decreased cost, increased revenue, increased brand, increased customer satisfaction, increased employee morale? What is it? Whatever we did this for, there was a reason behind it, hopefully, because if you're spending all that money and using all those resources, hopefully the organization is getting some value out of it. And that's where we just really determine, did we get the value we thought we were going to get? And if we did not, why? Why didn't we? And what can we do to make sure that we do get that value? So that's just kind of a quick understanding of the knowledge areas. And as you create your application or fill out your application for CCBA and CBAP, you want to use the same terms, the knowledge areas, the same understanding, so that you're not putting in, maybe you do testing as well. So you're not putting any of your testing efforts in because that's not a BA thing. You're not putting in your project management hours because that's a PM thing. So you're just really focused on what they say a business analyst is according to the BAC. All right, blueprint, what do you need to know? Okay, and once again, we talk about the knowledge areas. The knowledge areas are those ones in the orange box. We just talked about them: business analysis, planning, monitoring, elicitation, collaboration, etc. The numbers behind that are the chapter numbers. So when you do get a copy of the body of knowledge, chapter 3 will be about business analysis, planning, and monitoring. Chapter 10 will be about techniques, chapter 9, underlying competencies, etc. So this is the percentage of exam questions from each area. And so chapter 1, if you're going for ECBA, there's at least one question there, might be a definition. What is business analysis? Key concepts, we'll have 2 or 3. The chapter and underlying competencies is 2 and 3, and techniques is 8 to 9. The sad thing to think about is that there's actually 50 techniques in the BAC, and you're only going to be asked about 8 or 9. But you know, again, they're going to be higher level questions, and you can just go, you know, what is the technique used to understanding requirements by following the person doing their job? Well, then you would say, oh, that is shadowing, you know, so, or observation as they call it. So it's just, you know, kind of a more of a definition thing. So business analysis, planning, and monitoring, you can see there's 2 to 3 there, 10 in elicitation collaboration, 10 questions around life cycle management, 0. Now, when ECBA first came out, they were testing on each of the knowledge areas. But after a while, they realized that if you're starting out as a business analyst, you're going to spend more time doing requirements analysis and design definition rather than strategy analysis, that pre-project, or solution evaluation, that post-project work. So they've taken those questions out. In CCBA and CBAP, you can see that chapters 1, 2, 9, and 10, they say NA. Now, beware of that, because in CCBA and CBAP, what they've done is they've taken like all those 50 techniques and they put them into the various knowledge areas. So if you look at the requirements analysis and design definition, there's 42 questions in that section. And the chances are there's going to be a lot of techniques, because there are a lot of technique questions in the exam. So it's not that, even though they say NA, that they don't have questions, but they just bundled it with other knowledge areas. They also have a few underlying competency questions. I always tell students just to kind of skim that, because underlying competencies, you know, if you've done business analysis work, are pretty logical, make sense. You've probably come across them. If there's something you don't really understand, you know, you might want to read a little bit more about it, and then how it's used, but that's about it. So it's just really getting into the task and activities of each knowledge area, the techniques used in that knowledge area, the competencies used in that knowledge area. So because they're case study based and scenario based, they've merged those concepts into the regular knowledge areas. So application, we have to apply to sit for our certification for CBAP and CCBA. Others do not have an application process. So the best way to start is just download and review the certification handbook. So you just go to IIBA.org, that's the link, and download the certification handbook. Because sometimes they change from time to time and they don't always tell us. So to get the latest and greatest, that might be a good thing to do. Make sure that you have all your eligibility requirements, so that you have your professional development hours, 35 hours or 21, and this has to be with a more of a facilitated effort where it is very much learning is aligned to the BAC. So if you take one of our classes, our certification classes, you automatically get those professional development hours. If you don't take one of our classes and maybe you want to study on your own, or some of you might belong to IIBA chapters that have study groups, which, study groups are great. That's how I studied. You still need your professional development hours though, so you still have to take a class. So from someone. Work history, make sure you have all your hours and make sure those hours align with the terminology that's in the BAC. Don't start using your own terminology, because if they read something and they don't understand it, they're going to not accept it. 2 references. Now, here's the key about the references. They must have known you for 6 months or more. A lot of times when I'll be teaching some of our certifications, I go, Susan, can you be a reference? Well, I'd love to be a reference and help people out, but I haven't known them for 6 months, so I can't. And so the people that can be a reference have to have known you for 6 months. They have to be either a CBAP or CCBA. They have to be a career manager, the one that gives you performance review, or if you're a consultant like I was for many, many years, the client. And they can do that. The nice thing about references is they don't get checked unless you're audited. So it used to be that they checked every reference, and now only if you're audited do they check references. But you still have to have a legit references, because if you do get audited and you never know when your time is up, you might have to give them, they'll check on those references to see if they're accurate, because otherwise you will not get to work or actually take the exam. Also, I'm going to encourage you to use Watermark's application worksheet. To get to the application worksheet, you can see the link here. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It gives you all the instructions on how to use it. Why do I say that's important? Because going back 7 years or 10 years in your experience, again, this is only for CBAP and CCBA, is a lot. I'm lucky if I remember what I had for breakfast today or yesterday, let alone what I did 10 years ago. So what I do is I actually did this. I filled out that application worksheet so that I could remember what I did and where I'm putting things. And then it also calculates the hours in each knowledge area you need. So that's helpful there too. Gives you a little bit of description. And then when you go to enter the information into the application site on IIBAs, you can check them off as you put them in, because unless you pay, you can't go back and see what you put in. So I may have started putting in my experience, and then it's a week later because life happened, the kids came, they needed something, and I forgot about it. I go, oh yeah, I gotta get back to it. I don't know what I put in, and if I start duplicating stuff, I know it's going to get tossed out, and then I'm not going to get the hours that I need. So it's better just to, I know it's kind of a little bit old school, but put it in the spreadsheet and then check it off as you're actually putting it into the system, into the IIBA system. You got to pay for the application again before you can start putting in detail, but you can't see it until you pay for the application. So log it in, agree to the code of conduct and the terms and conditions, otherwise it won't let you go any further, and then submit it. And then you'll receive an email from IIBA saying, hey, your application's been approved, or it's been pegged for auditing. Now, if you get audited, there's a couple ways to get audited. One is if anything looked kind of suspicious and was flagged. And so hopefully you have documentation, or as much documentation as you can on your experiences. And the other is just that your number is up. It's kind of like going through the TSA checkout line. You go through, so many people go through, and all of a sudden it goes beep, and then they are flagged for more searches. So it's just sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. It's just that the number is up. I actually got audited when I was renewing my certification, not because there was anything wrong, it's just because my number was up. So don't take that to be, oh my gosh, what did I do? So they will send you a note saying what they need from you to make sure that it is a good application. And they're really pretty fast about that. So you won't have to wait months to say, gee, am I accepted or not? I mean, pretty much the next day. And then so you take your exam once your application is approved and you go, yes, Susan, you are approved to take our exam. So review the exam rules, the system requirements, because it is proctored. They use PSI, which is a proctoring system. And so there's two ways you can take the CBAP or CCBA. You can take it online, which you have to find some quiet place for 3 hours, 3.5 hours to take the exam, where you will not get to be interrupted, because if you are interrupted, they'll cancel that exam. So you might have to find a hole somewhere to put yourself in for about 3.5 hours. Or you can go to a testing center. And, you know, it's still 3 hours, 3.5 hours, but at least you're at a testing center where you can't be too interrupted, hopefully. So you pay the exam fee, you log in to IIBA, your account, and then you say, you get access to the certification summary page, get started, you know, and then you say schedule exam. So you can schedule it as a time that works best for you. So I say schedule a time that works for you and when you are most alert. So my most alert times are in the evening and in the morning. By about 2 o'clock, I kind of start fading out. So I probably don't want to take my exam at 2 o'clock because it's just not my good time. I get another force of energy by evening, but you know, about 2 or 3 o'clock, it's like, oh, I'm kind of a little bit sleepy then. So make sure that it's when you're most alert, and then take the exam and say, yeah, you get certified. When you take the exam, they will let you know right away, did you pass or fail? And then you have a 1 year to take it, should manage that. And if you have to take it again for some reason, sometimes it's, you know, we're nervous, or maybe something happened, or the kids walked in, whatever, the cat walked across the screen, and we have to take it again. So the nice thing is you don't have to wait too long to take it. It used to be 3 months before you could retake it. They've eliminated that. You could take it the next day. I would suspect that you want to know the results of your exam, and then kind of study where you didn't do so well. So, and they will send you the results via email and say, hey, here's how you did. And they just tell you whether we were higher than everybody else in a certain section by knowledge area, or if you did lower in that knowledge area, or if you were kind of on par with everyone else. And so particularly if you're lower in a couple sections, might tell you where you need to study. So prep tips for CBAP and CCBA: study well. It usually takes about 100 hours, 2 to 3 months. Read the BA-BOK, that's the body of knowledge, at least twice. If you need extra study supplements, we have a lot of them. So go to watermarklearning.com and check out our my favorite is the study tables, I have to say. Flashcards, study guide, exam questions. Now, a lot of these you get if you take a class with us, so you don't have to buy them separate. But if you prefer studying on your own, which is just fine, you can purchase them separately. Study one chapter at a time, and then you go through our practice questions. And, you know, if you score, I would say 70 or greater, you're probably pretty good to go to the exam. And so then take your exam and yay, pass. All right. So some of you might be looking at specialty certifications, which IIBA also offers, and they offer 4 of them. One is the Agile Analysis Certification, the other is Business Data Analytics, Cybersecurity, and Product Ownership. Okay, and you can see that they came out, you know, relatively recently. So the Agile Analysis Certification is really BAs who work in an Agile environment and want their certification in a specialty area. CBDA is looking at business analysis with data analytics. So maybe you have a data analytics background or you want to move more into data analytics in your organization. Same thing with cybersecurity. And of course, a lot of times BAs either support the product owner or are in lieu of the product owner, or are looking at a product owner path in their career. There's no eligibility. Each one has their own guide. So Agile has the Agile Extension Guide. CBDA has a guide to business data analytics. IIB, the cybersecurity is cybersecurity learning modules. They have a bunch of modules there, and they have a guide to product ownership. So they're all, at least AAC and CBDA is scenario based. Again, here you are a business analyst, and what would you do first? Oh, identify the research questions if you were in CBDA. And so, or next, or what technique would you use, or things like that. CCA is knowledge-based, and so is CPOA. So you can see the number of questions on there. They're not always consistent. 85 in AAC, 75 in the other two, and 60 in product ownership. And they give you accordingly 2 hours for the first two and 90 minutes for the last. Again, there's no application fee, just an exam fee. And again, the first one is a member rate, and the second one is a non-member rate. And again, if you take one of our classes, whether it's on demand, self-paced learning, or if you take a class, you get 30% off. So registering, again, go to IIBA, download the handbook, pay the exam fee, always agree with that code of conduct and certification terms and conditions. Study. So the specialty exams don't take as much studying. So if you're looking for CBAP and CCBA, they're going to take, generally 2 to 3 months to study. I've had a couple students who said they studied in a couple weeks, but they took both 2 weeks off, and that's all they did was just immerse themselves into the whole Bach, right? They became the Bach. So, and then they could do pretty well, but otherwise you do need to study. Now, this ECBA and the specialty ones, not so much. You can use kind of like if you use the flashcards, if you use our study tables, that kind of helps you just get an overview of what's on. I would still go through the guide and read it so you can understand it, but it doesn't take that much. I said 1 to 2 weeks, you could probably be ready to take the exam. And we do offer classes on these too. So tips, 20, 1 to 2 weeks, 20 hours. Again, reading the guide, we talked about that. Supplement your study with the aids. And then take some drill questions. We have practice questions. And if you get 70% or more correct, you're pretty well good to go. Testing tips. For those of you who are going on the test, don't dwell on any questions because the timer keeps going, even though you're thinking about it. It's like, and you realize, gosh, I've been thinking about this for 5 minutes. I better move on. So there's 2 rules of thumb here. Some people say mark and just skip the question. You're just like, I have no clue. I mean, that's what I did when I first took CBAP. It's just like I had the first 3 questions, and I think it was test anxiety. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail this. I don't know these. So I just marked the first 3, and then all of a sudden I got, oh, I know this one. And then I got a little bit more confidence, and then I felt pretty good. And then I went back to them at the end, and I'm going, well, of course I know these. Geez, Susan, what were you thinking? The other thing I have started doing, which I didn't do earlier, is I take an initial guess. It's 4 chances. If I guess, at least it's 25% right? But I'll still mark it going, C or D, C or D. Okay, I'm just gonna go with my gut. I think it's C. Then I'll come back and then I'll mark them, and then all the ones I flagged, I can look at again after I get done with all the rest of the questions, and I'm going, okay, is it C or is it D? And I don't want to think about too much because I overthink then, and that's sometimes a problem. So I'm going, okay, well, C or D? I'm just going to stick with C. So sometimes your gut reaction is good. You remember the old adage, don't change your correct answers to wrong, because I've seen that done. So don't second guess yourself. Don't get into analysis paralysis going, But I think if you really read the question and then make sure that you understand what the question is asking for, because in some of these questions, they have ancillary junk you don't care about. So I always read the question, read all the answers so I can kind of get a gist of what they're looking for, and then go back up and saying, okay, what are you really asking for? What is that question that they want to know? And then I answer the question, because like I said, sometimes they have junk you don't need, you don't care about, and then they have some answers to kind of throw you off. So you have to go back to, what are you really asking me? Don't change your answers. Certainly watch the time. If you have an hour, 90 minutes, okay, I got half the questions done at halftime. I'm looking pretty good. So ECBA or any of the specialties, read the question carefully, all the answers, then select your answer. Same thing with scenario-based questions. I always review those questions, like, what are you really asking me? Because if I skim the question really fast, I might think they're asking me one thing and they're really asking me something else. And then the case study, I skim the case study because this is just like a lot. Then I read the question really thoroughly, read all the answers, read the question again. And if I have to, I can go back up to the case study. But my goal is just to skim it. And even if I have to go back to the case study to be able to answer the question, I'll just focus on that area of the case study. I won't have to read the whole thing again. So those are just some testing tips to help you through it. Again, we have lots of resources, so check us out. Go to watermarklearning.com, and if you go to under CBAP or CCBA or ECBA, we have lots of resources to help you out. And same thing with our other resources for AAC and CBDA. So once you pass the exam, woohoo, we passed, yay. Oh, now your work is not done. So in CBAP and CCBA, you have to get 60 CDUs every 3 years. So I try and get at least 20 every year, so I don't have to wait two weeks before I have to renew and then go, oh crap, I got to get 60 CDUs. So I kind of pace them out for myself, because you do not want to take the exam again. Just trust me. Especially the 3-hour, 3.5, not a fun time. Don't want to do that again. So I want to keep up my certification. AAC and CBDA, 20, it's kind of a pain, 20 CDUs every year. The nice thing that IIBA has done, though, is when you log because I was just doing it the other day, your CDUs, those CDUs can apply to more than one certification. So I have like my CBAP, my AAC, and my CBDA. And so maybe I'll listen to a webinar or I'll take a class, and I can pick from any of those. It's kind of a drag and drop thing, of what they cover. So I can have a webinar and it might cover things in CBAP and AAC and CBDA. And so I can double dip, triple dip in some cases, on those requirements. I just have to identify where they are in the knowledge areas or the domains. They call them domains in the specialty, where they are in the domain that it's covered. ECBA, CCA, and CPOA at this time, I'm not saying they won't change their mind. At this time, there's no recertification requirements. You just are what you are. Now, I don't think ECBA would have certification hours. CCA and CPOA may have, but so far they haven't said anything about it. So if you want to know how many people are kind of in the pool with you, these are the latest from March 31st, 2024. And you can see we started counting at 2020. So we have ECBAs that have gotten really skyrocketed. There was barely 4,000. Now there's almost 12,000 ECBAs, so very popular. CCBA, not so much. I think most people try and go for their CBAP, which is also doubled. And then these are the specialty ones. So there's AAC still gaining speed there. So CBDA is, particularly lately. It started out a little bit slow, but now it's kind of gaining some momentum. CCA kind of, is doing a little bit of stuff. But the interesting thing is the product ownership, because that didn't come out until 2021, so we have no, comparison there. And so now there's almost 1,000 already. So I think that was the one that's going to quite take off. Between that and the AAC, people are still interested in it. I just got back from the BBC, the big conference for IIBA, which was in Orlando this year. And a lot of people still interested in CPOA and AAC that are looking at getting their certifications, as well as the common ones, but a lot going on there. And I think we're just going to see more growth. Benefits, these are some facts. This is actually from the 2022 Global State of the Business Analysis Report. 2023 hasn't come out yet, so I haven't been able to update these, but benefits to higher confidence. Certification gives you higher confidence. Upskilling helped me find a job. Salary increases. Sometimes promotions are based on whether you get your certification or not. Greater fulfillment, etc. On the average, when they've done any salary surveys, the average 25% more you earn than somebody that's not certified. Most people would recommend getting certified. And how soon did they get the benefits? Usually within a year or less. So just kind of some fun facts. So that was a whirlwind of kind of a review of all IIBA certifications. And is there any questions that I can answer for anybody before you go?
Absolutely. Hey, Susan, we have one question here, and I'll give our audience another minute or two to throw in any last minute questions. But we had a question here about the CBAP and the CCBA exams. Are perspectives included in the CBAP or the CBA exam?
No, they are not. There's a whole chapter for those of you who don't know what they're talking. There's a chapter in the book about perspectives, and we have been told directly with IIBA from IIBA that there are no questions on perspectives. That doesn't mean that it might seem like a few, but they're not going to ask you any specific questions about the perspectives.
Excellent. Alrighty. Great to know. And I believe that looks like it'll be our only question for today.
All
And this
right. Well, I
water.
wish you all good luck on
Yeah.
either picking your certification or passing the exam. If you need any help, reach out to us. We'd love to support you in your journey to get certified. So we're kind of passionate about business analysis. We're passionate about all the certifications. So good luck, and let us know how we can help you.
Absolutely. Do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com. And if you missed out on any part of the session, we will be emailing the recording of this session to you after the webinar. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Dr.
Thank you,
Heidorn.
everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Awesome. Bye, everyone.